Have you ever asked yourself, why do I always end up with the wrong person? Why do you fall in love with someone who hurts you, ignores your needs, or repeats the same toxic cycle? It's not just bad luck. It's not just poor choices. The truth is much deeper and much older. According to the Buddha, it's karma. Yes, karma isn't just about what you do in this life. It's about the patterns that have followed you from life to life. Even love, even heartbreak, even attraction, they are not random. They are karmically seeded. Today, let's explore how karma affects your love life, and how Buddhist wisdom can help you break free from the cycle and find peace. And perhaps, true love. Falling for the wrong person doesn't mean you're broken, naive, or unlovable. It simply means there are deeper patterns within you, patterns that you may not even be aware of. According to the Buddha, nothing in life happens without a cause. If you're repeatedly drawn to the same type of painful relationship, there's a reason beneath the surface. That reason is karma. Karma isn't about blame. It's about understanding. It's not some cosmic punishment. It's the natural result of past choices, habits, and energies. In the realm of relationships, karma can show up in surprising ways. You might be trying so hard to love someone who's emotionally unavailable because, in another time, you withheld love from someone who needed it. Or maybe, you abandoned someone in a past life, and now you feel an aching fear of being left behind. But here's the truth the Buddha revealed. Love, in itself, is not the problem. Love is sacred. Love is generous. Love is a doorway to awakening. What creates suffering is when love becomes entangled with attachment, craving, fear, or illusion. And those things are rooted in karma, not just yours, but the shared karma you bring into a relationship. That's why people often say, why do I feel like I've known this person forever? Or, why is this so intense? So quickly? The karmic bond between two souls can be powerful. It can feel magnetic, but not all karma feels good. Some karmic relationships come into your life to teach, not to stay. Some come to balance a past debt or to help you grow through challenge. This is why mindfulness matters so much. When you're not mindful, you fall into relationships out of habit, out of loneliness, or out of fear. When you are mindful, you begin to see the patterns. You begin to recognize what your heart is really looking for, not just another person, but peace, healing, and truth. So if you've loved someone who hurt you, someone who abandoned you, or someone who never saw your worth, don't just ask, what's wrong with them? Ask, what is this teaching me about myself? This isn't about shame. It's about liberation. Because once you start to understand your karmic patterns, you can begin to shift them. And once you shift them, you no longer chase the wrong people. You attract the right peace. So if the love you experience is shaped by your karma, then what exactly is karma? And how does it quietly shape the people you meet, the emotions you feel, and the choices you make in relationships? Most people think of karma as a kind of cosmic scoreboard, keeping track of good and bad deeds. But the Buddha taught something much deeper and more personal. Karma is action, not just physical actions, but also the thoughts you think and the intentions behind what you do. Every time you act with intention, whether it's out of love, fear, anger, or compassion, you plant a seed in your consciousness. That seed may not grow right away, but over time, given the right conditions, it ripens into an experience. Sometimes that experience feels joyful and uplifting. Other times, it shows up as heartbreak, confusion, or betrayal. This is how karma shows up in relationships. Let's say, in a past life, you were deeply attached to someone, and your love became controlling or possessive. That attachment didn't just disappear when that life ended. It left a karmic imprint, like a groove in the mind. In this life, without realizing it, you may find yourself drawn to people you feel the need to control, or to people who control you. Not because you consciously want it, but because it's familiar. It's unfinished business. That's the thing about karma. It isn't about punishment. It's about continuation. It's the echo of yesterday's actions reverberating through today's choices. And when it comes to love, those echoes can be loud. They can feel like destiny, but in reality, they're just patterns waiting to be seen. Once you start to understand karma in this way, everything softens. You stop blaming yourself for falling in love with the wrong person. You stop blaming them, too. You start asking wiser questions. What energy am I putting into the world? What do I keep repeating without knowing it? What kind of love am I truly ready for? The Buddha wasn't interested in making us feel guilty for our karma. He wanted us to wake up to it. Because when you see how your patterns have been formed, you also begin to see how they can be transformed. That's the freedom he pointed to, not escaping karma, but mastering it, not avoiding love, but loving with wisdom. Once you begin to understand karma as the force behind the patterns in your relationships, you start to look more closely at the kind of people you're drawn to, and the kind of people who seem drawn to you. It's not random. It's not just about chemistry. It's a reflection of something much deeper, your inner conditioning, your karmic blueprint. Think about the last few people you were emotionally involved with. Were there similarities? Maybe not on the surface. But look closer. Did they make you feel the same kind of lack? The same kind of longing? Did you feel small, anxious, or like you had to prove your worth to be loved? These aren't coincidences. They're mirrors. They show you what still needs healing inside of you. The Buddha often said that the world we live in is a projection of our own mind. That includes the people we meet. If your mind carries unhealed wounds, like abandonment, betrayal, or rejection, those energies will find a way to manifest in your outer life. Sometimes, they take shape as romantic partners who trigger those exact feelings. Not because you're cursed, but because your karma is rising up, asking to be seen, felt, and finally released. This is why it's not enough to say, "Next time, I'll just choose someone better." Without awareness, the karma will just repeat itself in a new disguise, a different face, a similar feeling. It's like being in a play where the actors change costumes, but the script stays the same. And here's what makes it so tricky. What you're most familiar with often feels like love, even if it's actually pain. If chaos or emotional neglect was part of your early conditioning, whether in this life or others, you might mistake that instability for intensity. You might believe that real love is supposed to be dramatic or difficult, simply because that's what you've always known. But karma doesn't have to keep pulling you in that direction. The moment you become mindful of the pattern, you gain a kind of spiritual leverage. You can pause. You can say, "Wait, I've been here before. This feeling, this dynamic, I know it." And that recognition gives you a choice. You don't have to keep repeating the old story. The Buddha taught that freedom comes from seeing clearly. And when you start to see the people in your life as reflections of your own inner world, not as enemies, not as saviors, but as mirrors, you begin the real work of transformation. That's when love stops being a battlefield and starts becoming a path. If the people you attract are mirrors of your inner state, then painful relationships aren't just bad luck, they're karmic messengers. And sometimes, those messengers come wrapped in heartbreak, disappointment, or even betrayal. It's hard to see suffering as a gift, especially when you're in the middle of it. But from the Buddha's perspective, every experience, especially the painful ones, can lead to awakening. When karma ripens, it doesn't always do so gently. Sometimes it arrives like a storm. A breakup that leaves you feeling hollow. A partner who cheats. A relationship that drains your energy, even though you tried to give it your all. In those moments, it's natural to ask, "Why me?" Or, "What did I do to deserve this?" But Buddhism invites a different question. What is this showing me about my own mind, my past actions, and my path forward? You see, karma doesn't care about fairness in the way we usually think of it. It's not about getting what you deserve in some moralistic sense. It's about cause and effect. If a certain kind of energy was put into the world, whether through attachment, fear, or avoidance, that energy will eventually return, often in ways that push you to evolve. So when a relationship breaks your heart, it's not the universe being cruel. It's your karma calling you back to awareness. That pain you feel? It's the burning away of old illusions. The collapse of the fantasy that someone else could complete you, save you, or heal what you haven't healed in yourself. And here's the shift. When you begin to see suffering as part of your karmic path, it loses its power to make you bitter. It becomes fuel for transformation. You stop asking, "How do I avoid pain?" and start asking, "How can I grow through this?" The Buddha never promised a life without hardship. But he did promise that suffering has a cause, and that when we see the cause clearly, we gain the power to end it. So if you've been through a painful relationship, or you're in one right now, know this: it's not meaningless. It's part of your spiritual curriculum, not as punishment, but as purification. Healing doesn't come from avoiding love. It comes from loving with awareness. From recognizing that even the most difficult connections are teachers. And once you receive the lesson, you're free to let the pattern go. You don't have to keep learning the same painful thing over and over. You can thank the storm for what it revealed, and then step into peace. Chad GPT Da Noi. You would think that after going through heartache once, maybe even twice, you'd know better. You'd be wiser, stronger, more careful with who you let in. And yet, somehow, the same pattern appears again. The same emotional roller coaster. The same emptiness after the storm. It's like you're watching a familiar movie play out with different actors. So why does this keep happening? The Buddha taught that most of us live under the influence of habitual tendencies, what he called sankharas. These are the deeply rooted mental patterns and emotional reactions shaped not only in this life, but carried through countless past lives. You don't just choose your relationships with your conscious mind. You're also guided by the unconscious pull of unresolved karma. You might tell yourself, "I want a stable, loving partner," but inside, you're still emotionally wired to chaos. Not because you want to suffer, but because that kind of instability feels familiar. It's what you've known, and what feels familiar often feels safe, even if it hurts. It's also possible that a part of you is still seeking resolution. The unfinished karma from past relationships keeps you circling back to people who remind you, in some way, of that unresolved energy. You're not just falling in love, you're trying to rewrite an old story. But love doesn't heal karma by force. Karma dissolves when awareness is present. Another reason we keep choosing the wrong person is because we confuse attraction with alignment. The Buddha warned us about craving, tanha, as a root of suffering. That craving shows up not just in physical desires, but in the longing to be seen, to be loved, to feel whole. When you crave those things without clarity, you may chase people who promise intensity but can't offer depth. And sometimes, karma works so subtly that the very traits you say you don't want in a partner still show up anyway. That's not because you're failing. It's because that pattern is still alive in you. And it will keep showing up until it's met with full attention, compassion, and transformation. But there is good news in all of this. The moment you start recognizing the pattern, not with blame or shame, but with kindness, you create space. Space to pause. Space to ask, what am I really feeling drawn to here? Space to choose differently. That's the beginning of freedom. You don't break free by force. You break free through awareness. Through knowing that karma doesn't have to be a trap. It can be a teacher, and you are the student ready to graduate. Once you start to recognize the karmic patterns that pull you into the same painful relationships, the next question becomes, how do I break free? How do I stop choosing the wrong person over and over again? The Buddha didn't just identify the problem, he offered a path out of it. And it begins not with changing other people, but with changing how you relate to your own mind. Awareness is the first step. Not just casual noticing, but deep, intentional awareness. You begin by observing your emotional reactions without rushing to fix them. You start asking gentle questions when you feel drawn to someone new. Am I being pulled by clarity? Or by craving? Am I feeling love? Or am I feeling fear disguised as love? When you bring mindfulness into your dating life, something starts to shift. The red flags you used to ignore become clearer. The gut feelings you used to silence become louder. And the urges to chase intensity or drama begin to lose their grip. You're not judging yourself, you're just waking up. The Buddha's teachings on the Noble Eightfold Path give us tools to transform karma, especially in how we relate to others. Right view helps you see beyond the surface of your attraction. Right intention keeps you grounded in truth and compassion. Right mindfulness helps you stay present enough to catch the old habits before they carry you away. Breaking karmic patterns doesn't mean you'll never feel longing again. It means you'll learn not to follow longing into the same fire. And when you do slip, and we all do, it's okay. The practice is to return, again and again, to awareness, to your breath, to your body, to your truth. It also helps to take time between relationships. Not just to heal, but to reflect. What part of me was drawn to that last person? What lessons did they teach me about my own mind? What inner work is still unfinished? Sometimes the most compassionate thing you can do for your future partner is to get to know yourself deeply in solitude first. You can also consciously generate new karma. When you practice kindness, patience, honesty, even with yourself, you're planting seeds that will eventually bear fruit in your relationships. You're creating a new energetic pattern that will naturally begin to shift who you attract and who you're attracted to. It's not about forcing love. It's about becoming the kind of person who loves from wisdom, not desperation. When your heart is steady, your choices change. You stop chasing validation and start choosing peace. And slowly, your relationships begin to mirror the harmony you've built within. That's the true beginning of freedom from karma and from the suffering it used to bring. As you begin to step away from old karmic patterns and make space for new, healthier choices, something else becomes essential: stillness. Not the kind of stillness that comes from running away from the world, but the deep, grounded stillness that comes from knowing yourself. This is what the Buddha called taming the mind. And it's one of the most powerful tools you have for transforming your relationship with love. When your mind is constantly spinning, thinking, reacting, chasing, you end up moving through relationships blindly. You miss the quiet signals, the early warnings, the subtle truths. But when your mind is still, you see clearly. You no longer mistake intensity for intimacy, or chemistry for compatibility. You begin to choose from presence, not pattern. Meditation is not just a practice for monks sitting on mountaintops. It's a practical tool for modern life, especially for those of us who have been wounded by love. When you sit quietly with your breath, day after day, something shifts. You begin to watch your thoughts instead of being swept away by them. You start to feel your emotions without being ruled by them. And slowly, the urges that used to control you begin to soften. In that quiet space, you come face to face with the parts of yourself you used to avoid: the fear of being alone, the craving for validation, the shame of past mistakes. But instead of running, you stay, you breathe, and in that staying, you begin to heal. You also begin to see others more clearly. The people who used to trigger you don't shake you the same way. The ones who used to charm you don't cast the same spell. It's not that they've changed, it's that your lens is no longer clouded by old karma. You're seeing through wisdom now. Chanting, mindful walking, conscious breathing. These are not just spiritual exercises. They are how you return to yourself. How you stop looking for love outside and begin generating love within. Because the truth is, the more settled your mind becomes, the more your heart opens in a way that doesn't cling or grasp. And when you're no longer desperately seeking something outside of yourself, you become free. Free to love without fear. Free to be alone without loneliness. Free to welcome a partner, not to complete you, but to share your peace. This is the power of Tin Tam, calming the mind. Returning to center. It's not the end of your journey through love, but it's the ground you'll need if you want to walk it with awareness. When your heart rests in stillness, you no longer chase the wrong person. You simply become ready for the right one, or for the joy of being whole on your own. When your heart begins to settle into stillness and your mind becomes clear, something profound happens. You stop needing someone to fix you. You stop reaching outward to fill the emptiness you used to carry. And in that shift, you become the kind of person who loves from fullness, not fear. This is the real meaning of loving wisely. And it's the kind of love the Buddha pointed us toward, not built on craving or control, but on presence and compassion. You no longer chase people who make you feel like you have to earn their love. You no longer confuse longing with destiny. And most importantly, you stop abandoning yourself just to keep someone else close. That's not love. That's old karma acting itself out. But now, with awareness and a calm heart, you see the difference. The truth is, loving the right person begins with being the right person. Not perfect, not always put together, but someone who has done the inner work to know their worth. Someone who can sit with discomfort without needing to escape it. Someone who has learned that peace is more important than drama, and clarity more precious than intensity. When you hold yourself with that kind of love, your relationships change. You attract people who reflect your healing, not your wounds. You set boundaries without guilt. You forgive without losing yourself. You walk away when something doesn't align with your truth, not with anger, but with grace. And sometimes, the karmic shift isn't about finding a new person at all. It's about seeing your solitude not as a punishment, but as sacred space, a time to reconnect, to realign, to rest. It's in that space that you begin to see how much love has been within you all along. You may find someone in this life who walks beside you, who meets you with presence and kindness, or you may walk this part of the path alone. But either way, you are not missing out, because you are no longer driven by the desperation to complete something. You are whole, you are awake, you are free. That's the gift of understanding karma, not as something to fear, but as something to outgrow. Every wrong person, every heartbreak, every hard lesson, it brought you to this moment. And this moment is your turning point. So, let your next step in love come from a still heart and a clear mind. Let it come from wisdom, not habit. Let it come from knowing that you deserve peace, and that peace begins within you. When you live from that space, love isn't something you fall into. It's something you rise through. And that changes everything.